Welcome to episode 39 of Squib Radio. I am your host, as always, Elias Powell, and I am joined here with both Riley Pollock and Harry Burton. How are we doing today, boys?
I'm doing really well. Just hanging out at work, watching some Jays baseball, and pretty excited for the upcoming CFL week, and NFL preseason week 2 kicks off on Thursday. So all in all, we got a lot to look forward to.
Just a swell Tuesday in Saskatchewan. Another swell Tuesday.
Excellent. Always good to hear. On today's episode, we have got some NFL news, more out of the Raiders camp, as well as some suspensions and some minor injuries. Riley also happened to have a perfect week in the picks.
Yeah, I did.
So good job, Riley. We're going to cover that a little bit as well. And then, of course, we have our CFL breakdown, and as we mentioned last week, Harry and myself are going to go through our top 10 fantasy receivers for the year coming up. So we've got lots to get to on today's episode, so why don't we just get right into it? And as always, why don't we just start with our CFL recap? Riley, what happened last week?
Well, it was another week of close games. I mentioned last week that there was just 14 points separating the 4 games. This week it was pretty close as well. I believe it was 11, 15, 16 points this week. So another tight week between the 4 games. And it started on Thursday with a battle of the top 2 teams in the West. Winnipeg took on Calgary. And thanks to 2 punt return touchdowns, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers moved to 6-2 and beat the Stamps 26-24. That's the second time this season that the Stamps have had 2 kicks returned on them in one game. So I think they played well enough defensively and offensively, but man, their special teams really needs to figure it out. This game pissed me off, guys. I was pretty grumpy. I look forward to seeing the Riders play every single week, and I only got to see them play for just under 3 quarters last week because they were beating Montreal 17-10 with just over 2 minutes to go in the third. A storm rolled in, and after an hour of waiting, they decided to call the game with a Riders win. I mean, every win's a good win, but I want to watch football, and I think an hour's too short. What did you guys think of that whole call? I thought it was pretty Bush League.
I agree. It was garbage. I would be choked if I was a fan who paid money to see a full game and not even able to get that. I don't know. It's not a good look for the CFL, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sort of... It's a universal rule, so it doesn't really matter what time zone you're in. It was in Montreal, which is Eastern time, so by the time they called the game, it was like, 10 o'clock at night? It
would have been 10 there, yeah, just after 10 o'clock.
So that's pretty late, if you ask me, especially for those, in any evening game, even if it's starting at 7 o'clock Central Time in Saskatchewan, it's going to get a little late. But I do think an hour is a little quick to call it, but I don't know, at the same time, you're not even, not even halfway through the third quarter, and it's already 10 p.m., so it's getting a little late for those Eastern folk. So I don't know. Yeah. It worked out, I think. Not too bad. Obviously, it sucks you don't get to watch the football, but I don't know. I'm sort of impartial. I understand both sides of it. My
only problem is, the hour. Like, you could wait a little longer than an hour. And the reason they do it is because after the 7.5 minute mark of the third quarter, a game is considered complete. So anything that stops the game after that means that whoever's winning wins, whoever loses loses. But I just think that in a 1-score game, you got to wait longer than an hour. Maybe make it like halfway point of the fourth quarter if it's a 1-score game, or if it's more than a 1-score game, keep it at the 7.5 minute mark of the third quarter. But, I mean, Montreal is literally a touchdown away from tying the game. So, I don't know. I just thought it was pretty brutal.
Just wasn't a fan.
I think they do need to. Yeah, they do need to add some maybe expanded rules on game situation, but it is what it is, and the Riders walked out of Montreal with a win, so I'm not complaining.
Yeah, they're tied with Edmonton and Calgary now at 5-3, second in the West, so pretty good stretch of games for the Durs. Edmonton beat Ottawa 16-12 this week in one of the worst games I've seen in the CFL this year. CJ Gable, really the only bright spot in the game. He had an unreal game at running back for Edmonton, and they moved to 5-3 as well. Ottawa drops another one. It's a battle for second in the East right now, and it's tough. It's gonna be a tough battle because I think whoever comes in third won't make the playoffs due to the crossover.
You gotta love the crossover. Saved us a few times.
Yeah, like honestly, I think you want to be the crossover team this year. You're playing Hamilton that doesn't have a quarterback probably, or Montreal if they can sneak in there, or Ottawa who I don't think is very good. So you almost want to be that fourth place in the West, even though no team has ever made it through the crossover to the Grey Cup. Final game of the week was a good one. Hamilton took on BC. BC had the lead late, but the Ticats were able to pull it out and beat the Lions 35-34. BC blew it. They're now 1-7. It's a tough look for the Lions because I think they have the offensive ability to win games, but they just blow it. They like to lose games late. They like to blow leads, and it's been a tough season for the Lions.
Yeah, it's pretty much a write-off in BC right now. The whole team is just not doing well, and they're basically looking for next year already.
Yeah. I just don't see them crawling back into this playoff race. It would be tough. They'd have to basically win out at this point.
Well, at least they paid Mike Riley $800,000 for this year.
Exactly. Yeah, give the quarterback all the money so you can't get a decent O-line or defense.
Yep, pretty much. All right, well, that concludes our CFL wrap-up. Let's shift over to a little bit of NFL news. Antonio Brown is still in the news. This past week, he has been threatening retirement because his previous helmet that he was wearing all of his career has now been deemed unsafe by the NFL. And basically what he was threatening is if he can't use his old helmet, he's not going to play football anymore.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. He's being such a diva about the situation. You didn't get to see any of it on the first episode of Hard Knocks, but I'm assuming like basically all of episode 2 will deal with Antonio Brown and his antics. He got knocked out by Vontaze Burfict in that helmet that he had, so maybe a little extra cushioning would help him out, even though Burfict is on his own team now. But, I mean, it's such a ridiculous thing to be complaining about a helmet. And his agent came out today and was like, oh, he's never actually going to retire, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, just play football, man. Like, you were this big acquisition for this Raiders team, like some offensive player that they desperately needed since trading Amari Cooper. And he hasn't even really been on the field for training camp at all because he frostbit his feet, and now he doesn't have a helmet that he likes.
Yeah, he's the third highest paid receiver in the league too. So, as a Raiders fan, it's kind of tough watching that, but you just gotta wait till the season starts and he can put it all on the field.
Yeah, and I also have a feeling that this is sort of going to be the last we're going to hear of the Antonio Brown antics for at least the rest of the preseason here. I think management's told him to relax a little bit. But yeah, interesting. You've heard about it. Players aren't super stoked that they're having to give up their favorite helmets, but it's that time. A lot of them their 10 years is up. So, yeah, new technology coming out, and you got to update. In other news, Golden Tate lost his suspension appeal, so he will serve his full 4-game suspension for violating the banned substance list. So, already not a great season or start to the season for the New York Giants.
It's tough for him, and like, if you listen to what he says, he's saying that he was taking fertility drugs to try and get like his wife or girlfriend pregnant or whatever, and once he realized that they were on the banned substance list, he told the league. So, I mean, Tyreek Hill probably breaks his kid's arm and punches him in the chest, doesn't get anything. Golden Tate's trying to get his girlfriend pregnant, and he gets 4 games. So, the NFL, once again, mystifies. But, I mean, if it's a banned substance, it's a banned substance, and you got to move on from it.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, these guys have enough money to work with trainers and know what they're taking. And, I mean, even a pretty simple Google could have sufficed.
Well, that's the thing. I wouldn't drink a brand of water that I hadn't drank before in the NFL because there's so many little quirky things that are on that list that can get you suspended. So, I mean, you got to have a guy. You got to be like, oh, is this okay? Is this okay? Every single drug you take, you should be checking with your guy. Every team has to have one, you know? Like, it's just a misplay on his part, and now he's going to have to face the consequences.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely should be team pharmacists on these teams that are working with each player personally, telling them what they can and can't take. But, I mean, maybe it's a position, if not already, so maybe NFL pharmacists could be a thing.
I'm sure there's a guy that knows all the band stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there is too, but I guess they're just not going to him. And, you know, you don't really think about that, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
But that sucks. More news that sucks. Amari Cooper dealing with a heel injury. Not totally sure what's going on with this one. I read it today, and it was whatever bone in his heel or whatever was causing him some issues. I couldn't pronounce it, so I wasn't even sure that was in his heel.
Yeah, it's basically a heel bruise.
Okay. Well, good.
So it'll be good.
Good detective work there, Riley, figuring out those medical terms for us.
Yeah, he's missed the last 6 practices, but I feel like they're just kind of slow playing it because it's preseason. I don't expect him to miss any actual games that matter.
No, I don't either. More unfortunate news for Cowboys fans. Their quarterback wants more money than Jerry Jones is willing to give him. I'm personally not surprised. I mean, if you're a starting quarterback, they offer you X, you counter with Y.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty standard. I wouldn't be shocked if they come to an agreement on a middle ground pretty soon, like probably around 35 or even 37.
Yeah.
And like 40 mil is still like not that much.
Well, he'd be the highest paid player in the league.
Is that per year?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he wants 40. They offered him 30 mil a year. He said, "Nah, I want 40," basically, and he is getting absolutely roasted on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, Dak Prescott should not be the highest paid player or quarterback in the NFL.
No.
Doesn't really have a case for that, especially after last year. So
well, and he made it onto one of your guys' bust lists this year. So
yeah.
It's I don't think he's gonna have a good season. Well, like if Zeke's not there, the Cowboys aren't gonna be good. I could turn around and hand the ball off to Zeke. I'd do it for $200K. Call me up, Jerry Jones.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a good point. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that unfolds. And basically, just it's more than just Dak asking for more money. This just piles on the list of contract issues that the Dallas Cowboys are facing right now, with not only Dak, but also obviously Zeke. And then I'm sure Amari is going to pop up there very soon.
Yeah, he's due. He's due some money soon, too.
Yep.
There's no way they get all 3 signed. One of them's leaving.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess that's a large bulk of the main news. So I guess that's that. We're ready for another week of preseason coming up here. But with that, Riley, before we get into our fantasy picks, why don't we go through your CFL picks and how you did, seeing as how you're coming off a perfect week?
Yeah, well, it's the first time that I've gone perfect on the straight up side and the spread side, so it was a pretty big week for me. 4-0, obviously, in both. I'm now 25-10 straight up. Pretty good, I'd say. And 23-12 against the spread. So on the upslide, I was like 1-3 one week, and then I think I've gone 7-1 since then. So you know what? We're making money here at the O'Reilly Studios in Calgary, and making some friends money too. But some of you guys don't seem to want to bet with me. This week we got some pretty big spreads, some tough ones to pick. I don't know if I'm going 4-0 this week, but I'll give it my best shot. Thursday, we have BC at Winnipeg. Winnipeg favored at -11. I will take the Bombers on that -11 spread. Matt Nichols kind of got ripped for basically dumping the ball off to Andrew Harris every single play last week, so I think he takes some shots against a pretty bad BC defense, and they win by at least 2 touchdowns. Friday, Edmonton's at Toronto. Edmonton favored -8. I think they take that one as well. They kind of had a bad showing against Ottawa last week. Ottawa kept the offense in check. I think Toronto kind of was a one-win wonder the other week, so I think Edmonton will come out, beat them by at least 8 points. Saturday doubleheader, as usual. Hamilton's in Ottawa. Big battle there. Excuse me. Big battle there. Hamilton's favored by 2.5. But I just don't trust their quarterback, and I see Ottawa winning that game at home. I'll take them plus 2.5 and to win outright. And then the second half of the doubleheader.
Someone get this man some water.
Oh, man. Hard. I'm going to die, but that's okay. Montreal's in Calgary at 5 o'clock Calgary time on Saturday. I'm going to take Montreal plus 7. I like their defense. Vernon Adams Jr. practiced again today, and William Stanback was back. I think Calgary wins, but I'm going to take Montreal at plus 7. So Winnipeg minus 11 against BC, Edmonton minus 8 against Toronto, Ottawa plus 2.5 against Hamilton, and Montreal plus 7 against the Calgary Stampeders.
I like the riskiness because of the Montreal pick, Riley, but I think that's going to bite you there.
Yeah, I don't know. It's there's some tough ones. I don't know if Hamilton's going to lose to Ottawa either, but I'm now that I'm this big cool guy that went 8-0 overall, I think I'm just going to start risking it.
Might as well risk it for the biscuit. Sweet. Well, there's your betting picks. Make some money with Riley, and let's jump right into our receiver top 10 list, Harry. This was a tough one for me. There's a ton of just super good receivers in the NFL. I had the most difficulty with busts because, you don't really want to just cheap out and just pick not great receivers as your busts. But I did it, and here we are. So why don't we let's do the same structure as last week, Harry. Let's just go through our top 10 first. We'll go one at a time and see if we have any similarities or discrepancies, if you will.
Alrighty. Well, why don't you start us out?
All right, I will start. Number 1 fantasy receiver this year, I am going to say, is going to be DeAndre Hopkins.
I will 100% agree with you. The guy's a stud.
There we go.
The guy's a stud. He's my number 1 as well.
Y'all are crazy.
Tough to argue.
Julio's number 1.
Yeah, all right. Well, especially in PPR, if you're playing PPR, you need DeAndre as your number 1 receiver because he is just an absolute target monster, and even more so, he catches basically everything. He was targeted 163 times and caught 115 of those for just over 1,500 yards and grabbed in 11 touchdowns and 2 over 40 yards. So definitely a beast there. And yeah, like I said, if you're in PPR, it's a no-brainer. All right, Harry, who's your 2 then? We've agreed with the best receiver. So nice.
Julio.
Oh my God, get out of my head. Okay, Julio's also gonna be my second overall fantasy receiver this year. Coming off 2 difficult years. Obviously, he's putting the yards up. He's getting his targets and his receptions, but he has had trouble finding the end zone in the last 2 seasons. So I think Julio rights the ship, and he just has a monster season. I was even going to put him as my number 1, but I couldn't. Even, again, safe bet for PPR. This guy catches basically everything.
Yeah,
I think he's due for another big one.
I feel like that's a pretty easy one, too. I don't really know. Like, you could have them in either order, in my opinion, but those are the top 2 fantasy receivers in the league, and I don't think there's much argument against it.
No, I don't think so either. All right, my number 3 spot. This is where things should get interesting. I'm looking for this guy to have quite a bit of a bounce-back year, and my 3 pick is going to be OBJ.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Look for him to get a ton of touches. I think he's going to be healthy this year, too. I don't think he's going to have too many injuries. He had some pretty bad ones last year that are just like kind of bad football plays, unfortunately, but they happen. So, yeah, I think he's going to be an absolute monster this year, and Baker is just going to absolutely feed him.
That's interesting. I didn't really think of him as a top 3 guy, but if he's healthy, he really could have a huge season. He's got maybe the best hands in the league when he's healthy and getting fed the ball. So don't hate it. Don't know if I agree with it, but I don't hate it.
Yeah, that's tough. I couldn't go Browns that early. I thought about it, but I went with Devontae Adams, the safe pick. Aaron Rodgers throwing him the rock. He's their number one. Last year, he was a stud. I can say that. He was on my team. I think he's just going to continue that this year. It's going to be another good year for
Devontae Adams finished as the number 4 overall receiver in fantasy last year. He finished with 169 targets, caught 111 of them, so that's pretty decent. Yardage was a bit lower than our number 2 and number 3 with just under 1,400 yards receiving. Did bring in 13 touchdowns, which is quite a bit. So yeah, I mean, I like that pick. I have him a little bit lower, just because when OBJ's healthy and he's got a good quarterback, which I think Baker is going to be, he's a top 3 receiver, if not in top 2 conversations when he is healthy. I think
just pure talent alone, OBJ would be right up there in the top. I'd agree. I don't know. It's too early for me to trust the Browns yet to get in there.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Who's your 3, Harry?
Harry's 3 was Devontae.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Jeez.
Sorry, I'm numbers off.
Skills,
I was
Riley.
listening, but I was just.
All right. Number 4, Harry. Who do you have for your 4th overall receiver in fantasy?
Again, sticking with another receiver with just a stud quarterback, I'm going Michael Thomas. On the Saints, he is going to be getting targets because now that they have Jared Allen, the tight end, he is just going to open up that lane, I think, for Thomas, and the defense just will have nothing to do.
Yeah, I had Michael Thomas last year, and I could vouch for the fact that he didn't drop any balls, and clearly Drew Brees' favorite target. He was a solid pickup for me last year, and sad that I couldn't waste a keeper spot on him this year, but he'll make someone very happy.
Yeah, and again, had a pretty decent season. He was what do we got here? I'm just trying to count while talking. I think the 8th overall receiver in fantasy. Like you said, Riley, he catches pretty much everything. He got targeted 147 times and caught 125 of them. So that's pretty insane. Again, a PPR absolute monster. Just shy of, or actually just over 1,400 yards receiving. The bit where you do lack with Thomas recently is going to be his touchdowns. Kamara is that guy in the red zone with the Saints, but not a huge issue in general, if you ask me. But yeah, overall, same guy. I have the same pick. Michael Thomas is in my 4 spots. We're pretty much bang on there, Harry.
Right on. Well, then, who do you got for 5?
Yeah, my 5 spot is where I put Devontae Adams.
Fair.
Yeah, so I don't know. And the reason I'm doing this is because he's a fantasy monster. Burned me a couple times last year, but new coach in Green Bay, I think they're going to have some growing pains this year, and they're also restructuring their offense, so we don't really know what that's going to look like. So I've moved him down a couple spots. He's in the 5 for me. Who do you have in your 5?
I got every kid's favorite player, Tyreek Hill.
Oof.
Yeah, that is a considerable drop for Tyreek Hill.
I agree. He was just an animal last year. He was a game changer. If he was on your roster, you were just winning games last year. But I don't think his off-field stuff will harm him throughout the season. He's still got Mahomes throwing him the ball. Everything's looking up for him this year.
Yeah. Well, he was the first overall fantasy receiver last year, just shy of 1,500 yards, 12 receiving touchdowns, 1 return touchdown. So, he can get you that extra point in the returns because this man is super fast. Where he got you the points, though, is he had 4 touchdowns of 40 yards or longer. So that racks up the points for sure. Tied that with Antonio Brown last year. So, yeah, he's taking a dip. I have him pretty low, too. I mean, we're probably both going to eat our words on this, Harry, and he's going to light it up because Mahomes and Tyreek Hill is just a dynamite combo. But
it's scary.
Yeah, that's who I have in my 6th spot, actually. I dropped Tyreek to 6. Don't really know why, I guess. I don't know. I just think some other guys are going to have a bit better of a year, but I am probably going to regret that. Who is in your 6th spot, Harry?
6 is where I got OBJ.
Okay.
It seems a little low for him, but at the same time, I'm just still on that Browns hesitation. I don't know how it's gonna go. I'm hoping for the best. I think Baker's a beauty, but I need to be proven before I can start putting my money down on it.
All right. Well, we don't have to talk much about OBJ because we already did. In my 7th spot, I feel like this is pretty low for this guy. He's going to be a big question mark, but I've got Antonio Brown. I mean, you're kind of crazy if you're going to leave Antonio Brown off your top 10 fantasy wide receivers because the guy's just good at football. He might be a bit of a head case, but
he was like the safest bet in the last 4 years. Every year, if you drafted him, you knew what you were getting.
Exactly.
This year, a little bit different, but I don't know. I agree completely. I have him at my 7th spot as well.
No way! Oh, Harry, we are bang on, man. This is unreal.
And just to let all our listeners know, we literally did not disclose a single pick to each other pre-recording, so this is purely football mind related.
Yeah, and last year, I'm pretty sure Antonio Brown led receivers in touchdowns last year with 15. Had 3 yards shy of 1,300 receiving yards, and again, tied with Tyreek, he had those 4 touchdowns of 40 yards or more, which gets you those points for receiver. So in the 7th spot, all right, this is where
it's tough to have him at 7, but yeah.
Yeah, it is still going to be. If you get him in the 2nd, it's pretty decent. Who do you have in your 8th spot, Harry?
My 8, I went with T.Y. Hilton.
Okay, there we go.
Just because Andrew Luck and the Colts offense this year, last year they kind of showed signs of what they can do. This year, I think they're just going to explode. Yeah, I heard the news today that Andrew Luck's dealing with some ankle injuries. I don't think that's going to harm the season at all. But T.Y., he's their number 1. Him and Andrew have some chemistry.
Yeah, interesting. I left T.Y. off just because he's seen some regression over the past years, but that's I definitely get where you're coming from there, Harry. In my 8th spot, I've got Mike Evans.
Yeah,
basically the only target in Tampa Bay, so he's not.
I think Goodwin's gonna be pretty nasty this year.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point, but again, he's just that go-to guy. He had over 1,500 receiving yards last year, 8 touchdowns, 3 over 40 yards, so he can take the top off of defense. So he's a solid pick to anyone's team for sure, and still looking for a really breakout year from
old Crab Legs.
One of our favorites, one of our favorites on the show, Crab Leg Jameis. So yeah, that's who's in my 8th spot. Who do you have in 9, Harry?
9, I got Juju.
Nice.
Me too.
Nice, boys.
All right. Yeah, I mean, not much to say in regards to that. I mean, number 1 target for Big Ben. He's top 10 fantasy relevant no matter what.
Yeah, he was a stud last year. It's only going to continue this year. I think with Antonio gone, maybe he sees a little bit more pressure from the defenses as the Steelers' number 1, but I'm still confident.
As long as Big Ben is healthy, I think Juju could even slide into that top 5 spot with a good year. I mean, I think he's a 5 to 10, and I don't see him going much past a wide receiver 10.
Yep, totally.
Agreed.
All right, let's the last spot in our top 10, Harry. Who do you got?
it would have been tough to leave this guy out. He was a stat monster last year. I went with Adam Thielen as my number
Get out of
10.
my head, dude. Yeah, that's my 10 spot as well.
Yeah.
Wow, we are bang on. Yeah, pretty much. I wanted to put him just as a bust because I just think Stephon Diggs takes the double coverages and then Thielen just eats. But yeah, pretty much a stat monster there. He'll win you those games.
I was thinking about putting him on my bus as well, but I was like, no, I just can't do it. I can't.
Yeah,
He had too good of a year.
I've been waiting for him not to be good for 2 years now, and it just hasn't happened. All right, well, that's our top 10, Harry. We're pretty much living in each other's heads right now. I'm sure once we now move into, I think we should go busts. I want to leave sleepers for the end. So let's go through our busts. This is where things open up a little bit. I personally struggled quite a bit with busts because you got to find some good guys to just
I agree.
put in there as who you think aren't going to go well. These are pretty much all skeptical, I guess you could say. I mean, there's not a whole lot of backing to this, but might as well just get into it. Who's your number one bust, Harry, for this year?
Jarvis Landry.
No way, man. Okay, that's mine as well.
No way. We're just killing it today.
All right, well, this one's pretty self-explanatory. OBJ is the number one guy now. You're not getting anywhere near the production from him as you did last year, so I'm chalking him up as a bust. Who's your number two bust, Harry?
My number two is he's my boy. It's tough to see him land here, but I had to do it. AJ Green.
Yep, that's my second bust as well.
Oh my god.
No
God
way.
Damn.
No
That's
way.
unreal. All right. He's injured too, so I mean, I felt this one was kind of cheap putting him on this list because he is starting the season injured. He's not coming back till what, week 5 or 6, or was it 4 or 5?
Something like that.
Yeah, I mean, you could also classify him as a sleeper too if you're in a keeper league and he slips to like 4 or 5 just because people don't want to pick him because he's not playing the first.
That's
4 or 5 weeks of the season.
That's true, but Andy Dalton, when throwing him the ball, even when he does come back, it seems less and less appealing to me every year, and they're only getting older. So.
Yep, Andy Dalton, the definition of mediocrity in NFL quarterbacks.
Yes.
Cool. All right, who's your third bust, Harry?
My third bust is Amari Cooper.
Nice.
Dallas
Okay, finally
Cowboys.
we've got something different. All right, why is Amari your bust? He was just an absolute monster as soon as he got to Dallas last year.
Yeah, no, and he was good, but I think every team has seen that now. Amari is kind of one of those fringe players. He's always been just on the edge of being a complete stud. And I think without Zeke there this year, the production's just not going to be there. He'll still be a good receiver, but he's not going to be. If he's your number one receiver on your team, you're not looking great.
Yeah, I completely left him off my bust list just because I personally think he's a really good receiver, and even with Zeke gone, he's going to put up those numbers and get you those touchdowns. But I definitely get where you're coming from, Harry. In my third spot, I put Brandon Cooks.
That's a good one.
I mean, there's not a whole lot of reasoning behind me putting him. Basically, I got 1 and 2, and I'm really having to dig for these last couple. But I don't know. I'm just the entire Rams team, aside from probably Todd Gurley, because he's going to eat no matter what. I think they're going to have a Super Bowl hangover. I think Goff's going to have an absolute garbage season, even under McVay.
Well, and honestly, I just think Cooper Kupp's a better all-around receiver than Cooks. Cooks is kind of a game breaker, take the top off a defense kind of guy. Cooper Kupp is so reliable, and Goff went to him so much last year before he tore his ACL.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't get a whole lot of targets compared to some of the guys in our top 10, only getting 117, only catching 80. Still, however, put up just over 1,200 yards. But, I mean, I don't know. That's where he's at there. My fourth bust here, this one's kind of cheap because we talked about him earlier. I got Golden Tate. He's going to be a bust, A, because he's suspended, and B, because he's on the Giants. So It was a toss up between Sterling Shepard or Golden Tate, and out of the two, I think Golden Tate's a better receiver, so I put him as my bust.
Nice. Who do you got for your fifth, or how many more busts do you have?
Well, did you only put 3?
Yeah.
Okay. My fifth bust, and this is just a total stretch here. I got Demaryius Thomas on the New England Patriots. He probably isn't even going to see the field, but that's a guy that's put up the numbers.
Don't draft him. I don't care if he's in the 15th round. Don't draft him.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. We made it through there. Let's go into sleepers. I just had a heyday with this. I probably could have given you guys 20 sleepers. I'll probably sprinkle in some extra ones just because I can think of them off the top of my head. But I'll let you lead this one off, Harry. Who do you think's your best sleeper going into this season?
Well, sleeper is just a very good category because I almost left out this category before my little map here. But looking at the list, I think it was tough to leave out Dante Moncrief on Pittsburgh. I've always really liked Moncrief since his days with the Colts, and I think now with Antonio gone, Juju's just going to be looking for that guy. Mark Washington could be the guy, could be the sleeper on Pittsburgh, but I'm leaning more towards Dante Moncrief.
Nice. I definitely thought about him. My first sleeper, just because you're probably going to be able to get this guy late, really late probably, the rookie out of New England, my boy from Arizona State. Talked about him a lot before the draft, and that is N'Keal Harry. This guy making plays in the preseason already, laying out for balls. He's going to catch everything. He's an absolute monster, and he is going to be the guy Tom Brady throws the ball up to, especially in his aging years. We talked about it last week, not going to be able to get the deep ball, but I think he's going to lean on N'Keal Harry to win those battles when Edelman isn't going to.
I can see it.
I like it a lot. I like him.
Yeah.
I really, really like him.
Yeah, so you'll probably be able to get him late. All right, next sleeper. I've got Sammy Watkins.
Huh.
Ooh, that's a good one.
If he can stay healthy, he was pretty hurt last year, but I mean, again, reigning MVP, the NFL's throwing him the ball, and when they had their running game fired up, Tyreek's taking the top off the defense. Sammy Watkins was an amazing number 2 guy. And when he was healthy, he cracked the starting lineup for quite a few people in our league last year.
Yeah, it's just tough with him. I think just to stay healthy, because that's the biggest gamble with him. He's never really been healthy his entire career.
Yep.
So be a gamble, but definitely a good pick.
All right.
I had Jamison Crowder, number 2. I think Sam Darnold with Le'Veon Bell is just going to be... This is going to be his season to come out. I know it's the Jets, and it's the Jets, but I don't think anyone's going to be looking at Crowder. No one in anyone's draft is really thinking too hard about Jets players, and Crowder had a great year last year.
Interesting. I was thinking... I didn't put him on my list, but I was thinking Robbie Anderson, as far as a Jets sleeper would go.
Fair. I really like Crowder. He's super undervalued, I think.
Yeah, and Crowder just didn't ever have a QB in Washington. They were always hurt, or he was hurt, so he never really reached his full potential. There were some times where he was going in the 4th, 5th, 6th round, and people were really banking on him for a couple years there, but he was just always hurt, or Washington's QB was garbage.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right. Was that your 3, Harry?
That was my 2.
Okay. All right. Moving on to 3. I've got D.D. Westbrook. Might not be a deep sleeper, but with Big Dick Nick and the Jacksonville Jaguars, I think D.D. Westbrook's gonna have a big year this year.
Yeah, I like that pick a lot. Big Dick Nick is my favorite QB of all time, because he literally wasn't good, and all of a sudden he's my favorite and really good. And I think Jacksonville's offense is going to be way better with him than they were with Bortles, and Westbrook looks like he could have a breakout year.
Yep, totally.
Yeah,
all right.
tough.
Who do you got, Harry?
Nick.
Who do you got for us in
I got
your 3 spot?
Deshaun Jackson returning to Philadelphia.
He was gonna be a bust for
Oh,
me. That's
man.
lame.
Jackson.
No way. I'm not buying that for a minute.
Oh, you're gonna eat those words. Deshaun is just gonna show up in the end zone week after week.
No, he's a flex
Philly.
receiver. If you need to maybe get 2 catches for 80 yards and a touchdown, if you're lucky.
He's a prayer guy for you, Eli.
Yeah, he's a total prayer guy. You have the 10th spot on the waiver wire. I don't even think I'm drafting him.
Well, that's why he's a sleeper, because hopefully most people are thinking like you.
And maybe that's why Harry's won 2 titles.
No, maybe that's why.
That's probably not why, but
because he's picking Deshaun Jackson.
Who's in your 4th spot here, Harry?
So I only did 3 again.
Okay.
But,
there's a lot of people to choose from. Can you think of someone off the top of your head? I'm just going to put you on the spot right here.
Yeah, if I had to think of someone off the top of my head, I would probably go with DK Metcalf.
Nice.
I really
just
thought
because I
want to
see it happen. I want to see it happen. The guy's an animal. Let's go.
Okay, I like that. I was gonna put him on here, but I didn't. There's just too many guys I would get in later rounds before him. One of which, Marquise Goodwin, boom, in the 4 spot.
Yep.
Jimmy G's coming back. He's gonna be good. He's finally got a quarterback. CJ Beathard was basically bona fide number 2.
Realistically,
all season.
him or Pettis could go off this year.
Marquise Goodwin is slightly, and I mean at the utmost, very slightly slower than Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, he's fast.
All right, and that's who I think. And then in my 5 spot, this guy was an absolute monster until his season got ended by injury last year. But that's Will Fuller with the Houston Texans.
Yeah,
that's a guy you can get deep when DeAndre gets doubled, if not tripled, every snap. He's fast. He's got great hands. He was such an end zone threat last year. I'm just scrolling to pull up some stats here as I just continue to ramble on here.
Ramble on.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find it because he was just an end zone. He was a red zone target, bona fide red zone target. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to find him here. And it doesn't.
It's a casual Zeppelin reference. It's good. It's good.
Yeah. I don't think I'm going to find it. But anyways, I think he's going to be great. He's a solid guy, even if you need a flex play or something like that. Great sleeper. I have a couple consolation guys, one of which Calvin Ridley. Was my big sleeper. I drafted him in the 15th round last year.
And then traded him away.
Which is fine by me.
Can I give you guys one?
Yeah.
I think Tyler Lockett is going to go off this year.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think DK is going to take that number 1 spot from him.
But DK
quickly.
is a sprinter. He can't run every route.
Lockett.
He goes 9s, but I think Lockett has a better route tree than Metcalf does.
No.
Yeah, definitely. That was one of the concerns with DK in the draft. But okay, I'll give you that one, Riley. I'll give you that one.
Hey, you guys just sleep on him. I'll take him. It's fine.
Yeah, you definitely can. Another sleeper. I think Allen Robinson could be in for a big year.
Yeah.
Oh, also John Brown in Buffalo. I know everyone's like, "Oh my God, Eli, Buffalo, really?" But he's really fast, and
Josh
Buffalo
Allen isn't as bad
Josh,
as he's being portrayed, I don't think.
Yeah, Josh Allen can throw it really far. And as of late, I am a huge fan of the run fast and throw far combo from receiver and quarterback. So I don't know.
All right.
If his sickle cell stuff can be kept under control, which I really hope it does, because I'm a big fan of Smokey Brown. I think he could have a good year.
That's fair.
Yep. Also didn't make any of my lists, but again, I've thrown him in here because we haven't mentioned a single Los Angeles Charger, Mike Williams. I'm taking him over Keenan Allen this year. Watch for his 3rd year in the NFL to be a big one.
That's
this
interesting.
Guy's a monster.
Big fan of big calls like that. Eli will come back to this if Williams does, in fact, get past Keenan Allen as wide receiver 1 for the Chargers this year.
All right, that's it. Those are my receiver picks. I had way too much fun picking these sleepers because there's so many. And there's
You've
so
been
many
talking about
rookies.
receivers since well before the draft. This has easily been your favorite group of players.
Yeah, I know. And there's just so many. And we haven't mentioned so many. Like some of the top picks in the draft.
A.J. Brown?
A.J. Brown.
Yeah.
He's in there. There's so many.
Yeah.
So many.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you, and this is me keeping a receiver in our keeper league in Julio Jones, but you can probably wait on a couple of receivers in this draft. Like, there is some good talent in the NFL at receiver right now.
I agree 100%. I think this is the best crop of receivers we've seen in a long time.
I definitely second that. And with that, that's pretty much all we got for you guys today. Riley, what's going on with our survival league?
We're getting pretty good. I think we're up to like 15, 16 guys or girls in the Survivor League. So yeah, keep plugging away at that. We'll have the link on our Facebook and Twitter again after the show tomorrow when we post it. And I
Tomorrow
believe
is in,
as
what
in
day is it today?
Wednesday.
Yes,
Tomorrow
it
is Wednesday.
Tuesday.
Yes.
We are recording on a Tuesday.
Yeah, there we go.
Indeed.
How about
cool.
our fantasy league?
Fantasy League, I was out of the country when we did this, and am kind of still getting settled. Haven't done it yet, to be completely honest with everyone, but I'm going to. The fact that we have 15 signups for our Survivor League is already a good indication, so don't really want to make, like, we'll do first come, first, where we're not really going to do first come, first serve, because especially if there's 15 people already for our Survivor League, we're going to just sort of pick at random, I think, just so it's not whoever's on Instagram at that given time. But I also am not 100% on that, so stay tuned for that. I'm going to look to put that together this week. We're looking at Yahoo Fantasy. It's one of my favorites. It's what we've always played. And again, probably we're looking at PPR, so a lot of these receivers we mentioned today, they're going to have pretty high draft stock there.
All right. I'm excited for that.
Moral of that story is I'm going to do it just sometime this week.
Well, you know, sometimes...
Hopefully tomorrow.
Sometimes you just you get caught up in life.
Yeah, I say this a lot in my day-to-day, but Rome wasn't built in a day, so...
Hopefully this fantasy league is built before the season starts.
Yep, hopefully. Hopefully it is. All right, and with that, for all of you listening, thank you so much. We hope you're enjoying all this fantasy football information from me and Harry. There's not a little bit of factual bias behind it, but we're pretty much just shooting from the hip on all of these. And we will talk to you next week.
I got you stuck off the realness. Think not, this shit's too hot. Too hot. Too hot. Rock you in your face. Dab your brain with your nose bone. I'm a vampire walking on the surface of the sun.